Let's move on because we want to talk about the big GAA stories over the last couple of while. I'm going to read this tweet from Dick Clerkin yesterday, or on the 19th, sorry, so a couple of days back at this stage. Anyone complaining about the price of GAA tickets, jog on. As a whole, the GAA is still largely undervalued by any comparison. For example, it'll cost you €36 to watch a Munster, less Irish players take on Zibre in March. Will cost me €15 to watch Monaghan against Dublin next weekend. Dick, good morning to you. How you doing?
Hello, Ger. How you doing? How you on?
An interesting response to your tweet.
Yeah, listen, you're always going to get a mixed bag. I suppose you sort of set yourself up for these times. Bonnie hadn't been on Twitter for a long time, and I had a few free hours, so I said I'd have a bit of not fun, but genuine interaction. Because listen, I do get, as you can sort of see from those, get a wee bit risen sometimes when everyone takes the opportunity to give the GAA a kick, and it seems to be just sort of open season no matter what it is, and this was the latest. Like, the reality is, just break it down, and I heard Shane Donoghue there having a chat on the radio as well about it. I'm going to Dublin and Monaghan on Sunday. It cost me €15. I have the ticket in my hand. I'm taking my two boys for free. That's unbelievable value by any metric. Okay, and I don't care what you compare it to, sport, go to the cinema. If we wanted to take them swimming to the pool next door, it cost me that. If I wanted to go into town for a coffee and a bun, as we call it, it'd be a tenner. It's great value. So regardless of it's a price increase, there has been a price increase in 2011. I just can't understand. Like, it's free to bring your children. Free. What can you bring your children now to at this day and age in modern day Ireland for free? Like, do people want the GAA to actually give them money at the gate? Is it only then they'll be happy? Like, I just, these conversations just rise me so much because they just lose all perspective.
Well, speaking of perspective, can we tie the other big GAA finance story into this and talk about Páirc Uí Chaoimh? I guess a lot of people are concerned about the optics of a massive, it seems on the face of it, and the story has essentially come from Croke Park, the most qualified person in Ireland to talk about the cost of a stadium is Peter McKenna, who was centrally involved in the building and the running of the new Croke Park. So he knows ins and outs exactly of how much that's going to cost. And before Christmas, he was talking about a 24 million overrun in the cost of Páirc Uí Chaoimh. So GAA members are looking at what seems to be a black hole, at least in the knowledge of how much Páirc Uí Chaoimh is going to cost, and then they see a price increase and they put two and two together, naturally enough, because organisation needs to plan for future loss of potentially 24 million. Organisation increases revenue over here. It's not a million miles away for people to go factor A causes factor B. Okay, we're playing devil's advocate here if we want to join the two. Like, the reality is, if you want to do a quick sum on what they might get out of those modest price increases, it'll not do an awful lot in terms of plugging that hole. In terms of the Páirc Uí Chaoimh conversation, that's totally different. Like, that is an absolute disgrace from all concerned if that level of overrun is established. Like, I'm not, there's nobody who's going to defend that. I certainly haven't. I don't know enough about it. I can't comment on it. I did think right throughout the project, in its initial inception, that it all looked a little bit cheap for what you're getting down there. When you look what it cost to build things anywhere, that they were going to do this for the money that it did. So it's probably no surprise that it is actually coming in around a real figure. But that's something I don't know enough about. But if the overrun is what it's been stated at, and that, yes, you're right, that money has to be found somewhere. That's very, very regrettable, and people should be held to account for that. And I would hope that they would be, Ger.
Dick, do you think it's fair to compare the GAA as a volunteer-led organisation with something like the Guinness Pro 14?
Yeah, okay, I get into that. Okay, and I think this was very simply down to value. Like, at the end of the day, whether it's pro or amateur, the money in my pocket and the money of people going to watch games doesn't matter. We all earn it in the same places. We all get it from the same source. So it's then about how we spend our money. That was the basis of the conversation. So how then do we choose? How is it okay to choose to spend that money, multiples of it, to go and watch pro sports, but then we find a problem with it to watch a sport? Just because the players aren't paid doesn't mean that the value of the product isn't there. The people take offence when you call it a product, but that's what it is. Like, it is down to basic economics. I want to give my money to something to be entertained. That's why a lot of us go to anything, a concert, the cinema, a football game. And that's a very simple comparison. To go and watch a Division 1 game, so I'll go to Croke Park, you're going to go to, even go into the qualifier games, you might only pay €20 and your kids will go free. That is an amazing value for me as a customer compared to other sports, regardless of people who have been paid or not. In this defence that it's a pro sport is okay, we know where the money is going. We say it's okay then to charge £70, £80 a week in the Premier League to line the pockets of agents and players who are paid ridiculous amounts of money. People actually saying that's okay just because that's the way it is. It absolutely isn't okay. So therefore, that argument doesn't really stand up when you bring it to its full extension.
Like there is sort of an acceptance though about the grotesque capitalism in professional sports, and I'm not saying that's fine, but I'm certainly not saying that it's fine to just project that value onto the GAA and to what is supposed to be the values of the Gaelic Athletic Association.
But it's not fine. Like, that's what I'm saying. But I don't think people accept it. There's no choice. Like, there's no choice. If you want to go and watch Liverpool or Man United, you now have no choice but to empty your pockets to bring your child. If you want to go and watch Ireland play the All Blacks or Ireland play England, you've no choice but to fork out huge sums of money because that's just the market. That doesn't mean that it's right. That's just the model. The GAA haven't gone down that route. So there is no comparison. GAA are not looking to bleed their supporters for all the majority of the games. Then people sort of thrown in the All-Ireland. That's a totally separate discussion. You know, this business of a tenner in the All-Ireland and it's going to cost me €8 or €9, €8 or 80 or 90 euro to bring me 8 or 9 year old to an All-Ireland final. All due respect, an 8-year-old is no business in an All-Ireland final for €90. Okay, I never went to All-Ireland finals when I was an 8-year-old. You know, that's you know, that got pulled into it as well. I go back to the original point.
Well, hang on a second. So, sorry. Hang on. Just on that point, right? So you're saying you can bring your 2 kids to the league matches and go all year, and then say Monaghan go on a slalom and you run to an All-Ireland final. You won't be able to bring your kids?
If I want to bring them and pay €80, €90, that's my decision, as it is for everyone. But that's the decision. In the same way as if I wanted to bring my child to watch Ireland play England in the Six Nations, that's what I have to pay. If I wanted to bring them across the water to watch Liverpool play Burnley, that's what I'd have to pay. That's my decision.
Yeah,
okay,
I get that. I get that.
So if you accept that logic for pro games, how do you not accept the same logic then for the GAA?
Well, because, hang on a second, you're not from Burnley, you're not from Liverpool, you're actually from Monaghan, and your county are going to be in an All-Ireland final. And I just think this is the key point, right? The All-Ireland final, I understand that it's the easiest way to raise 1.2 million or whatever it is they'll raise from the 2 finals. At the stroke of a pen, it happens, and they'll sell out, and ultimately people will find the money. But say you're a family from Kildare, and Kildare reach an All-Ireland final. Are we really saying to that family that you're going to have to spend 360 quid for a couple and their 2 kids to go and watch their All-Ireland final? It's a huge, huge amount of money.
Monaghan got to an All-Ireland final. I honestly, sitting here now, I don't think there's anything I wouldn't spend to have my family there. And that's the truth. I'm sitting now considering a holiday for my family, right? Like most people with their kids, all right? What are we all willing to pay to bring our kids over to Spain or to France for a camping holiday, whatever? Thousands. Don't do it every year on a whim. I would pay anything. Cheap. If I could get 4 tickets, if Monaghan got to an All-Ireland final, I had the privilege to get enough tickets to bring my family, I would be thankful for it. And what I would pay versus what that occasion and that memory is for a lifetime is insignificant. And I think that's the point people totally miss. The All-Ireland final,
it's not everybody understands that.
A privilege. It's not a right just to go because you're going to games. You know who goes to All-Ireland final games? It's patrons, it's supporters, it's people who get their tickets every year. It's a reward for their work that they've dedicated. It's not just everyone that has been to a game all year. And that's just the reality. There's only 80,000 people can get. Everyone can't go.
You are pricing families out of it, though. That's what happens. Like, so you're talking about people who can afford camping holidays in France. But the reality of our economy at the moment, irrespective of what John Horan is saying, is that there are vast swathes of people who are just about making ends meet. And what happens with these price increases for All-Ireland finals is that then it does become a dream that those families can go. And if that's where the organisation is going, that's fine. But you have to accept that that's the decision you're making, that you're prioritising the patrons and the upper middle class who can afford to spend 360 quid to bring their family versus those people who are working class and who are just about keeping the wool from the door, Dick.
I think you're pushing it a bit. Like, we're all living in the same country. Absolutely, we all know that there's people struggling on the margins here. But as a society, at this point in time, in 2019 Ireland year, you live in Dublin, I'm even in Monaghan, we walk around the streets, we look at society, we rank the shopping centres, and this is not an excuse or a rationale to try and extract money, but we can see how people are spending their money at Christmas. So this notion that you can't afford, like, the reality is, over the course of a National League, the price increase might cost 10 to 20 euro, depending on how it goes. But let's be honest about it. Okay, we want to break that down. Like, there's cinemas, there's all these different facilities that are being kept going. Parents have no problem spending €100. These are the same people. I go to the swimming pool. It costs €100 to send your child to go for 10 swimming lessons.
Yeah,
right?
they're all for-profit organisations, though.
Now you have to pay for.
Yeah, it's true. It's true. You do, except they're all for-profit organisations. That's the point. They're all run so that a business can make money. And look, maybe that's exactly where the GAA needs to go and just say, yeah, look, we do need to make money, and this is the reason why we need to make money, and this is where we're spending it. And maybe they're just not doing a very good job of that.
I'm going to give you a great example, and this is how hit home how undervalued the GAA is at the minute, right? I was talking to somebody from Fermanagh there recently, right, and they were saying about Enniskillen and Gales, that they're doing great work at underage level, loads of coaches, the town team hasn't been doing well for a long time, would have been a powerhouse for Fermanagh football years ago, and they're doing great work, and they're getting great numbers at underage level, okay? They weren't charging anything for the kids to come, okay? Next thing they found in the summer, the numbers fell off dramatically, and they were wondering what has gone on here. They found out that Ballinamannard Football Club, Crossroad, a very good soccer club in Fermanagh, had started up the train, and they were charging every kid £100 to go for their training, their coaching sessions. Every kid had to pay £100, and basically when they talked to the parents, you know what the parents said? They said, well, I have to pay £100 for them to go to the soccer. If I'm going to pay £100, I'm going to send them to soccer as opposed to going to you. Now, if you want an example of how the GAA is undervalued, there's your perfect example. And how people as a society undervalue the GAA. Because they were getting it for free, it didn't nothing to do with the product. I have no doubt what they were both getting was equal in terms of the quality of the training. But that somebody was getting it for nothing, they didn't value it. And that, to me, is at the essence of where people have their angst with the GAA. They don't value it enough.
But the thing is, it's never been free to attend a match. We've always paid for it. There has always been a value placed in it. What that is kind of subjective. And you say that you pay to be entertained. Like, were you entertained last summer when the figures were declining rapidly when it comes to, I guess, Super 8 games, and then the impact that had on the All-Ireland semi-finals? Terrible attendance figures at both semi-finals.
That's now you're getting into the entertainment value of what you pay. And that's, if you want to have that conversation, have it. That's separate to what the original conversation. This, again, happens with the GAA. You go off on these tangents trying to find justification. Okay, so we want to talk about the quality of football that's been offered. Yeah, it's not great, but sure, it's not the same for everything. There's plenty of rugby games are rubbish, plenty of soccer games are rubbish. You don't look for your money back going out the door. Plenty of games went to last year were brilliant. Clonus last year, Monaghan and Kerry. I'll remember that game, that occasion forever and a day, as will everyone that was there. Great. And I don't know what it cost me, €20. It would have been worth twice that because it was a fantastic occasion. You can't get them all right. But yes, we all acknowledge that, as a whole, inter-county football has an issue there. But that's separate now to pricing.
Do you think? Do you want to go down that road? Do you really believe it is separate from pricing? Is this not all part of the same? Like, when we all think about life, we don't think here's a silo, there's another silo, there's another silo. Like, it seems that one of the knock-on impacts of less people going to matches last year, again, has been a price increase. It seems that one of the knock-on impacts of the massive hole in the Páirc Uí Chaoimh finances has been an increase in ticket prices. The GAA needs to increase its revenue. I'm sure their commercial department have been tasked with much higher levels of income as a result of what's going on in the background as well. So you can be sure that they will ramp up their commercial activity, and fair play to them, that's exactly what they should be doing. But when it comes to asking your members to pay more for a product that at the moment the organisation itself doesn't feel is going in the right direction, that again just seems to be a little bit, it just jars with people. The game seems to be in crisis. You've got seasoned watchers of it saying that they wouldn't pay to go and see it anymore. Niall Moyne has been saying that for a couple of years, and people are now kind of rounding behind that. That's crystallising into something of a movement. Attendances are down because the championship isn't competitive in essentially certainly two provinces, and maybe the other two provinces it is, but then the Super 8s was a bit of a fiasco last year with the way that the Dubs got 2 games at home as well. So that's the thing that you're asking people to pay more money for. I'm not sure that the entertainment can be divorced from the ticket prices.
Not to a sex. Well, the reality is, right. So again, go down to the price influence on behaviours, and again, you're into simple economics here. Okay, what are you willing to pay to go and attend an event or whatever it is? Like Monaghan, I think, are away to Kerry and Mayo, I think, right? And we're sitting to say, we're going to go to those because there's going to be a weekend or a day, and might have to stay somewhere, whatever. I can tell you one thing that's not going to influence my decision one bit, and I not don't like to speak for people, but I'd say it's something similar. Whether I have to pay 15 or 17 euro for a ticket, okay, because that is a fraction of the outlay, and that's the same for championship games or whatever. Like it's so we have to be realistic about how much people will influence their decisions over a couple of euros, and that's in reality what it is. Let's not overstate how much this is. Like you can prepay tickets for the league for 15 euro, it was 13 last year, so 2 euro. Let's be honest about it, lads. We're having a conversation in most circumstances over 2 euro. Okay, so let's not overextend it. Now, if you want to talk about the quality of an offer, you have the GAA, and we know it about it. That's in terms of the Super 8, the structures, the way the game's been played, and in many instances it's not up to scratch. And that I would be the first to say that has to be addressed. I think it gets a bad rap. A lot of it is bad. The marketing around games doesn't help. Everything is negative in the build-up to games. It doesn't help. We've almost sort of consigned it to been rubbish before the ball is even kicked. Whereas that same rule doesn't apply to any other sport I can watch. Everything is built up to be a great game. Doesn't matter who's playing on the Premiership or in the Pro 14s. Whereas the Gaelic football at the minute, people have always been put off to go into a game before a ball has been kicked, which is unfortunate, but that is where we're at. And that's largely fed from a lot of poor quality that's been served up. And that is, go back to the rule changes that were attempted there, that all feeds into that. But that's something hopefully we will come out of.
Dick, why do you think that the attendances were down in the semi-finals last year? Because it seems to me it's one of two options. It's either that people have paid too much money because of the new structures, because of the Super 8s, or that the games were expected to provide low entertainment value.
Two simple reasons, in my opinion. One, Mayo wasn't there.
You can't blame Mayo for this.
No, Mayo bring huge crowds. You asked attendances, right? So this is simple. Mayo bring a huge crowd.
Both of the semi-finals had terrible attendances. Mayo can only play in one semi-final.
Sorry, Mayo, there's 4 teams. Mayo bring a huge crowd. Monaghan were in it. Monaghan have a small following relative to the likes of Mayo. Okay, so there's so many supporters Monaghan can bring to a game. It wouldn't matter. So there was a good Monaghan Tyrone crowd there, but they were never going to fill Croke Park because they just simply wouldn't have the volume of supporters. Okay, great that they are. Dublin and Galway. I remarked going into the stadium last year, I was working at the Dublin-Galway game, the lack of atmosphere. And that was generally fed by, seemed to be a serious apathy amongst the Galway support. A lot of them didn't travel for whatever reason. Maybe I think the Galway hurlers were going well at the time. They had put up a very poor showing against Monaghan the week before. They just felt they
just got their first Croke Park win in years and years and years. It was their best year in football in a decade and a half. Like, I can't see how there was apathy around the football team.
But there was. I'm not saying that. There was actually. I shared a taxi to the game with Pádraig Joyce because we were in with yourselves, if you remember, before that game, Ger. And he was saying, there's just really bad atmosphere around Galway. I think that just the whole momentum had fallen out of that team. After the defeat in Galway against Salthill against Monaghan, there was a very small Galway crowd. Again, I couldn't believe it. For a county that had waited so long to get to an All-Ireland semi-final, there was such a poor crowd. The Dubs didn't, there wasn't that huge excitement or drive around the semi-final that you normally get. And there probably was a bit of an overhang from the Super 8. So no point in saying otherwise because people had been on the road, and that contributed to it. So there's a few things there. I was very surprised at the Dublin-Galway game with the lack of atmosphere around it. Monaghan Tyrone, great atmosphere, but there's only so many people who are ever going to get to that game because, again, small counties.
So you don't put it down to the fact that people were completely not ripped off. Like, according to you, the ticket prices are fine, but the volume of the outlay that they had to do to get to their Super 8s games was not a factor here whatsoever. It's just, my point here is that it's the timing of this which is almost as curious as anything else, Dick, because like you look at GAA gate receipts from 2017, around 35 million euro, and then it was close to, that was up 5 million euro, we understand, on the previous year's take. Now we understand last year there was no increase whatsoever on this, so I'm concluding here that the GAA need to increase the actual cost of the ticket because the attendances aren't going up. And I think that comes back to a poor quality affair, or people just being priced out of it just with a higher volume of matches. Do you not accept that at all?
So, sorry, just to go back on your point. So the gate receipts were up last year, and there was no price increases. So that extension is that there was an increase in attendances. Now, obviously, the Super 8s contributed massively to that. So to offset both. So
the thing is that there was no extra revenue last year.
So the big increase,
5 million more in gate receipts. I thought you said no.
The previous year,
2017 was up on 2016 by 5 million.
Yeah.
2018 showed no increase.
Yeah, 2018 was no increase.
Yeah, and I would okay, because there was a big drop off we found in provincial games. The dubs factor is playing in. Lads, we can't dispute that.
This is central revenue.
No. 5 years ago, the Dubs were filling out. Every time Dublin played in Croke Park, played a Leinster game, there was huge crowds. Like, that has fallen off big time because there's actually an apathy in Dublin supporters now. They're not going to all these games, and certainly the players. So that's having a big impact. Dublin's dominance in Leinster is having an impact on attendance. Absolutely no doubt about it. That is, and nobody would dispute that. People aren't going in. The Dubs themselves aren't going to go to all the Leinster games that they used to. Still a big crowd, don't get me wrong. Like, what was the Leinster final attendance? I can't remember, but it was probably in the 40s-ish. Like, Leinster finals, as we remember, Leinster finals used to be a full house. Yeah. So that's a direct correlation to Dublin's success and utter dominance, aside from ticket prices. I would suggest not having a big impact, because the Dublins have a big impact on overall attendances because of the weight over all the counties.
In that instance, would it not make sense to Ryanair this and lower the price for all those games and try and get more people in, try and get more people to see this greatest team of all time? It's a bit mad that you're actually putting those prices up. It's going to have the opposite impact. Less people will go to those games. There's like, you know, it's hard to make the case for anybody to go to a Leinster game.
I guarantee you, and it goes back to my point about the price of a ticket versus the whole day out expense. I guarantee you, even if it was free in or a tenner into those games, you wouldn't see a linear increase in attendances because there's still an awful lot. Like, to walk to Croke Park, you could spend a tenner between shops and parking and different things. All right, so let's not overstate what people's decisions will be on a couple of euro, all right? But what the loss would be across tens of thousands. So, like we have to be realistic here, and this is where I bring in the comparison with other sports, because we apply that logic to them. But when it comes to GAA, we seem to think that we behave totally differently. And I think, as much, it only to be fair to everyone to compare like with like.
Dick, you've been very good with your time this morning. Thanks very much for joining us.
No problem, gents. All right, take care.